some young wannabe truck pullers practicing at a very early age. Ted Jones, Tom McConnell here with you. You're watching the Lucas Oil Eastern Nationals coming to you from the Buck just outside Lancaster, Pennsylvania. We're in the middle of the 4x4 category, and here comes Mr. 4x4. This is Jim Lyons, who pulls 2 trucks, as Brett Kepner explains.
Well, Ted, 2 vehicle operations aren't that unusual in the sport of pulling. In fact, it's really not even that unusual to see the same driver going back and forth between 2 trucks. But you're looking at one of the toughest operations in ATPA pulling. Jim Lyons out of the state of Kentucky competes in both the 4-wheel drive and 2-wheel drive divisions, and the most amazing part is that either one of these trucks could win its category at any given event. Lyons' history in motorsports, though, is equally as impressive. In championship drag racing, Jim Lyons had not only won national championship events, he was also a world record holder in the sportsman classes. As a matter of fact, his specialty was 6-cylinder engines back through the 1970s and 80s. Amazingly, he still drag races while competing with both these trucks. And we asked Jim, what's the main difference between a ride down a drag strip and a ride down a dirt track?
From the driver's standpoint, it's money.
How do you mean?
Well, we get more out of the pulling than we do out of the drag racing. You got 150 to 200 cars, maybe even up to 500 in drag racing. Here we've got 15 at the most.
Now, the fact that you'll, let's say, make on a winning day in drag racing 6 or maybe sometimes 7 rounds, and here it's a maximum of 2 usually, is that in itself a savings?
Well, that's a lot there. It's savings, you know, only 2 rounds. You got 2, and you might make 6 or 7 in drag racing. But if you make a 7th in drag racing, you're doing good.
That's true. Here you've got to do everything right on the first one.
You sure do. You got to have your weight right and drive the truck right.
All right. From the mindset of the driver, when you're inside the vehicle, difference between the 2 sports?
Instead of leaving full throttle, you got to go easy on these. Depending on the track, you just drive as the track requires it. And on drag racing, you know, you're leaving full throttle.
So does that make this literally more difficult?
It does, really, because sometimes you get too early on the throttle and it'll break loose, and then you're in trouble.
Now, don't let Jim Lyons fool you. While he's talking about huge differences between drag racing and pulling, recently, while we were in Brandenburg, Kentucky at an ATPA event, he was going back and forth between a drag strip in Louisville and the pulling event for 3 consecutive days. That gives you an indication that while there are huge differences, something's got to be the same.
All right, Brett, thank you very much. A very multi-talented motorsports gentleman, Jim Lyons, will pull now.
Ted, he is looking for his first 4-wheel drive win of the year. He has won 2 events with his 2-wheel, has yet to win a 4-wheel drive event. Let's see if the Buck will be the one for him.
Michael Ohm's 288.8. Oh, Jim Lyons, 288.2. Well, I've said it before, and now you know it's true. It is truly the sport of inches. Here comes the fast break of Gary Varner.
Well, Gary Varner has still got to beat that distance set earlier by Mike Umps out of Virginia. The distance to beat is 288.8. Let's see if the fast break Chevrolet can beat the Ford, Ted.
He's second in points. He must be doing something right. He has a win scheduled. Oh, 293 feet. That does it. He takes the lead. This may be his day, Tom.
Oh, and I guarantee you he is looking forward. He hasn't had a win yet this year, and he wants it oh so bad. Right down the line, though, is Jim Moritz. He's out of East Prospect, Pennsylvania, driving the Bits and Pieces Ford. He's a local guy, so he knows the track, but Ted doesn't look like he just doesn't quite have the power.
Crawling down through there, straining a little bit, trying to get it in bits and pieces. 244 feet, quite a bit short. Our next puller coming up, though, could take the lead. This is a guy we've seen before, a very popular truck with the fan, the Junkyard Dog.
Well, Ted, this truck really shines on good, high-horsepower track. And this is probably the best track in the country, if you want to know the truth. This track takes an awful lot of power. That's going to put Terry Thurston in a good position because his truck works oh so good on the high horsepower track.
Towing all the way in from Paducah, Kentucky, Terry Thurston will try and beat the mark. Said earlier, it's 293 feet. Gary Varner has it. Does the dog have enough? No, Junkyard Dog, 289 feet. He gave it a valiant try. More 4x4s coming up, including the lady. Stay tuned. The crowd is lined up waiting to get tickets to see the Jasper Pulling Series at the Lucas Oil Eastern Nationals here at the Buck in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. We're in the middle of the 4x4 pulling. Ted Jones here with you, Tom McConnell, and Brett Kepner, who we've sent down to talk to Donna Webb about why she passed that first pull.
Well, Ted, we've got a very unusual situation here in the 6,200-pound four-wheel drive category. This track hooked so hard that it actually took 2 different times to start the class. They actually had to add more weight to the sled because the first couple of trucks just took it right past the finish line like they were on a freeway. When they finally got around to the 3rd new starting weight, Donna Webb, the points leader in her sudden impact Ford, was the first driver up. She pulled 298 feet on this 300-foot track. But remember, the first driver at each class has the option of accepting or declining that first attempt and coming back and trying it again. Only the first driver has that option. She declined along with her husband, Ron. And that may, as we have seen, been a huge mistake. Donna, it doesn't look now like we're going to see a full pull, and this has got to be one of the more embarrassing situations for a pulling driver.
Yes, it is. That I always hate being a first hook because invariably you guess wrong.
Sure enough, you had told us earlier you didn't like being first. You didn't necessarily like being last. The question, of course, remains, how did the truck feel on that run, and can you do it again?
It felt pretty good, but it didn't turn the RPMs that it should have. So that made our decision that we thought we could do better.
Okay, what are you going to change if you go back out?
We've changed the fuel, and we're going to change the gear.
Now, what have you changed with the fuel?
We've leaned the motor where it will have more power.
Okay, so we didn't actually change what's in the tank.
No.
I was going to say, that would be an interesting manipulation of the rules. Now, as far as the gear is concerned, that in itself is a big advantage because you're the only driver that has the option of changing a gear.
Pretty much so, and we do have a 4-speed transmission in ours where we don't have to do a whole lot of breaking down a transmission also. We can just shift a lever.
All we can do is wish you good luck.
I'll need a lot of that.
So Donna Webb will be getting in line to pull in just a minute, but right now the next problem coming up is Deputy Dog, Mr. Bauman.
He's another hometown guy out of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And Ted, earlier today, he was pulling at a pull in Bel Air, Maryland, about 30 miles down the road. Pulled this afternoon, loaded his truck up, and headed to where else? You're going to go, the Buck.
The number to beat, currently held by Varner, 293 feet, just 7 feet shy of a full pull. Oh, he's on his way down. No, stalls out, gets the red flag at only 288 feet. That won't get the job done. But here comes the Iron Butterfly, another lady.
That's right. And her and Charvet Clark pulled against each other all year long. Now they get to run against Donna Webb as well. So 3 ladies in competition here, the modified 4-wheel drive class tonight.
She's from the home, are you ready, hometown, Bird in Hand, Pennsylvania.
I can't make that up, Ted. That's what her membership card says.
Linda Ziegler underway with the Iron Butterfly. 281 feet as she receives the red flag, nowhere near enough. So Will Unks will have a chance with the Enforcer.
Now you saw Willie's brother pull earlier, Mike, with the green machine. These guys are die-hard Ford fans, and you can bet your bottom dollar, especially now since Mike isn't in the lead. Mike has told his brother Willie everything he knows about how to run that truck on this track. Let's see if the Enforcer can do it.
Takes it easy, coming out of the hole, begins to give it a little more power as that weight begins to shift forward onto the rear bumper. The further down course, the more weight. Almost a full pull. Is he there? Oh, look at that. 299.4 feet, just 0.6 of a foot short.
299 feet.
That's it, buddy. You're in the lead.
It's about time. We've had trouble with the truck all year. We're just finally getting it dialed in.
I'll tell you what, on a track hooking this hard, to outpull some of these traveling pros is amazing.
Well, I guess maybe consider it lucky, but the track's going to get better as it goes on. And being as I pull up here all the time, I guess I had a little advantage.
I was going to say, and that makes it not luck. That was skill, my friend. Congratulations. Let's see if it holds for this last pull.
He had a pretty good run last time.
We'll see. Good job.
Thank you.
1 run remaining, that one being Donna Webb, who turned down a 298-foot pull. So as it turns out, she did the right thing, Tom.
Ted, that would have put her in second place had she had kept the pull. But Donna likes to win, so let's see if she can do it. You can see Willie Umps' face up there in the corner of your screen. He's hoping she doesn't do it, and Ted, she does it. Willie's the winner.
That horrible sound means one thing, my friend. You have beaten everybody out here.
Congratulations. Thank you.
I will congratulate. I'll shake your hand again. That is impressive.
I don't know what to say.
Hey, whether...
We got 2 trucks. I probably won't know what to do after we run the other one, so it helps having 2 trucks.
That, and I will point out that it's a rare situation that we have 3 reways like we did, so you actually did get an idea what the track was like.
Yeah, we got to run on it the first time, then we set the other truck, and then we fine-tune mine a little bit.
Yeah, every time you run 2 vehicles down there, one of them's gaining information for the other.
Yeah, I guess so.
Hey, either way, again, congratulations, my friend. Big win.
Thank you.
And our congratulations, too, from the booth from Willie Umps as his fellow competitors offer some congratulations. True sportsmanship. Here's the way they finished. 1, 2, and 3. Donna didn't even make it to the top 3. Coming up next, Wild Super Stock. Stay with us. As the sun begins to sink over Pennsylvania, you're watching the Jasper Pulling Series from the Buck just outside of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Ted Jones, Tom McConnell here with you, and we're ready to go into the pull-off of the Super Stock 5,500-pound tractors. Our first pull-off contestant will be Hot Iron.
Hot Iron, the tractor of Corey Forrester out of Chambersburg, PA, is the only alcohol Ford that I know of in the country, Ted. This is all the other Ford tractors you see are diesels blowing the smoke. He's running the alcohol, no smoke here, and Ted, he's going for a wild ride.
Hasn't anybody told this guy the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line?
Ted,
Wow.
he got up on 1 tire there.
256.2 feet. We've got to look at that one again, Tom.
Let's look at it. This track has looked like it's taking him over to the right awfully hard. At that point, he had to get on the left brake to guide that tractor to keep it in bounds. He hit the brake a little too hard. Now watch it start to wobble, and if you look at that right tire, it got off the ground at 1 point. At 2 points, Ted, that tractor was on 1 rear tire. That's a scary feeling.
That's what you call a wild ride, but these super stocks are tuned up. They've got them loaded for bear. They're serious. They want to go. The number to beat right now, 256 feet. That is as the snake crawls. Had he went straight, that would have been a full pull. He covered a lot of yardage.
You've got that right. Well, coming up next is Kevin Windsor. He made a full pull earlier. As you know, we're in the pull-off, and Kevin's tractor, he said it might be a little hot. He didn't know if he could come back, and yeah, but it looks like that's the case. 71.60, just a little too hot to make 2 back-to-back consecutive runs.
Always tough when you have to go back-to-back in these pull-offs. Here comes Zach Bundy in the tractor he calls the Bell Ringer.
Well, of course, the Bell Ringer might have something to do with his job. He and his father, Dad Jerry, are big-time dairy farmers in Gainesville, Virginia. So let's see what the 666 International can do. This is the only International, Ted, in the pull-off. You've got 3 tractors out, 2 Fords. Here's the only International. Let's see what the Redwood can do.
Looks like he's on a good run, just barely touching that ground with the front wheels. The number to beat, 256. He does it by 2 feet, 258 feet. Congratulations, Zach Bundy. Our Brett Kepner is getting down there to talk to him about how he accomplished that feat.
You heard the number by about 2 feet. That's good enough to take number 1, and that was the only straight run in the class so far.
Yeah, I had the front end weight a little too heavy. I wish I wouldn't have moved that weight up, but my clutch pedal got caught on the sheet metal. That's what all that at the beginning was. I didn't know what to do.
I don't think anybody in this class has had a run where something weird didn't happen.
I believe so.
Here's the way they finished 1, 2, 3 in our pull-off. Congratulations to our top winners. Now, coming up next will be a dragster. Can that be right, Brett Kepner?
Well, Ted, even you yourself have to admit it's crossed your mind. What would it look like? What would it feel like? What would it sound like if you could somehow hook up an alcohol-burning, supercharged dragster to the sled? You're going to get a chance here tonight to see at the ATPA event here in Pennsylvania, because Bob Zundell, one of PA's finest, is himself going to take a ride in this incredible thing, the canned heat dragster that indeed was one of the very first of this unique type of exhibition vehicle created almost, 3/4 of a decade ago now. Now, you started out in
84. We started building the dragsters.
And that was a huge departure from what you were used to, because you were one of the hardcore tractor guys.
Yeah, we started running, United States Hot Rod come to me and said, we need 10 two-wheel drive, short wheelbase trucks. And we built them. They gave us a month to build them. There's 8 the first show up in Pontiac. And then from that, they started, when we needed more exhibition vehicles. They wanted more different things. And then several of these got built. There were 3 of these and 2 funny cars. In fact, Mike has the pulling track here. He had a funny car.
That's right. Mike Hoff was one of the first ones to get into the short wheelbase cars. Now, Bob Bauman from Pennsylvania originally ran this one. How did you stumble into it?
Well, Bob was getting out. He wanted to quit, and he put it up for sale, and I bought it. And made a lot of fighting at home, but I bought it, and we run it 2 years, and then they quit using them.
Right.
I think we quit using them because we got a little too dangerous with them.
Well, they were squirrely vehicles. I mean, let's face it, something with this long a wheelbase and the engine all the way in the back, if it was meant to wheel stand, they always did that.
Yeah, we run indoors, 30-foot wide track, 2 of them, side by side, and whoever's leading go out the door to the other end. The other guy would have to stop.
Now, what kind of a ride is this thing from the driver's standpoint compared to your more traditional tractors, or even for that matter, the 2-wheel drive trucks?
This thing will beat you up, really beat you up.
Well, Bob Zundel wants to get beat up right now as he's going to back that dragster up. They pull everything here at the Buck, Dom.
That's right, and in fact, he got beat up in that truck in New Jersey yesterday on making an exhibition run. So glad to have him here at the Buck this evening. Looks like he's leaning out a little bit there, but he still made a good run. Bob Zundel with the dragster.
All the way down, a full pull on the exhibition run for Bob Zundel. When we come back, the wild 2-wheel drive trucks. Don't miss it. Under the lights at the Buck at the Jasper Pulling Series just outside of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. You're watching the Lucas Oil Eastern Nationals as we're ready to start a new class, one of my favorite classes, and here's one of my favorite drivers. These are the 2-wheel drives, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is Tricky Dick McPherson.
Always one to watch, and years ago, he pulled here at the Buck. He's won this event before, so let's see what Tricky Dick's got up his sleeve here tonight.
That vehicle, by the way, is a 23T, almost a dinosaur. They'll stop building those in ATPA. We'll talk about that more later.
And Ted, this track is so good, it actually stops the rear tires. It chokes him out. He didn't have enough horsepower to keep pulling the sled.
Next up, Rich Sandiford in the Valco truck, which reminds me, it's time for the Valco Tech Talk. Here's Brett Kepner.
What's the most common engine building mistake out there? Well, according to the editors of Circle Track magazine, it's the improper or excessive use of silicon gasket sealers. Now, let's face it, everybody uses them, and you need them in just about every conceivable area of the engine. But whether it's using too much or not an even application of the product, that's where the Valco team came in with probably their best-known product. It's called the Tube Grip. Now, let's face it, if you're using a tube of gasket sealer, you're going to end up with a bottle that looks like this, or worse. And there is no question you are not going to be able to get every ounce of the product out of the tube. Well, one thing's for sure, the Tube Grip has solved all that and is now one of the most seriously needed tools in the industry. By using an offset ratio, the Tube Grip can actually make sure that indeed every single aspect of the product inside the tube is used, and more importantly, it keeps at all times the back of the tube from blowing out. This thing can actually produce 4.5 pounds of pressure at any given time, and will stay that way all the way to the end of the tube. You don't think we mean the end of the tube? Take a look at that. That's how much you can get out of it, sometimes more than 2/3 more than what you were getting previously. The Tube Grip is a neat little idea, but one thing's for sure, it's become an invaluable one. Everybody's using them.
Thank you very much, Brett. Hey, that thing would work great for toothpaste, especially with my wife. Just for fun, let's let Rich Sandiford pull.
Well, Ted, Rich just got off his first win last week at the Bluegrass Nationals in Brandenburg, Kentucky. Picked up his first win of the season.
Sandiford, very good pull, 286.6 feet. Let's go back and look at that one more time because it wasn't exactly straight, Tom.
Wasn't exactly straight, but right now, Ted, he is the new leader. But look at that front end bouncing and dangling and just hopping around. Rich is getting a heck of a ride, and just reminds you of the dragster, Ted. He's getting bounced around a lot.
What a job. Ends up high in the air, but here comes the other 23T. This is Dick McPherson's son, Jeff. And as we were explaining to you, these 23Ts are going to be going away from ATPA competition. Now, if you had one originally, you can still run it, but no new ones can be built.
As many wins as father Dick McPherson has had, Jeff has yet to win an ATPA event. He's hoping tonight all that will change. And Ted, we've got a new leader, 296.20.
Oh, less than 4 feet short from a full pull. Now, that may be the number to beat, but here comes Jim Lyons, the guy we met a little earlier that has the 2-truck team with stitches.
I asked Jim what was more exciting, to run one of his 10-second drag cars that he runs in modified eliminator or a two-wheel drive pulling truck. He said, no doubt, the two-wheel drive is a fast, wild ride. Look at that.
Almost 289 feet does not surpass Jeff McPherson's 296 mark, but it's not over yet.
Here's another one of those strong East Coast pullers, Brian Nicholson out of Culpeper, Virginia. Been running the Scrapper for many, many years. And, Ted, he is one of the top pullers in this part of the country.
Well, that might be because he's running an Alan Johnson motor. That's the same top fuel NHRA drag racing star. Alan Johnson, a genius with superchargers. Let's find out how genius he is up here in Pennsylvania as Brian Nicholson tries to go 296 feet. Nah, way short, 269 feet. Sorry about that. We're not done yet, though. We have a teenager coming up to enter this poll. Stay with us. If you're hungry, they'll accommodate you at the Buck at the Jasper Bowling Series. Ted Jones, Tom McConnell here with you. Brett Kepner's down at the finish line area, and we're ready to go now with the Meat Wagon. You're not going to believe this driver. She's very pretty. Right, Brett Kepner?
Well, Ted, you're looking at the face of the driver that could indeed be the spoiler in the two-wheel drive class tonight. While her father, Dave Stockett, owns the 1909 C-Cab Ford that she'll be driving, Sabrina Stockett is certainly one of the youngest competitors in this category, but right now one of the winningest. I mean, let's face it, you're leading points down around your home in Maryland, and this is going to be a pretty tough one tonight against the traveling guys.
Yeah, it's a lot of competition. I hope we do good. We're going to try to put a little bit more power into the motor tonight, so we'll see. Give it all she's got.
Now, I would figure that you probably have at least a home court advantage because you've pulled here before, right?
Yeah, we pulled here probably in the 2 times in the last 2 months. I got a second last time I was here, and the time before that I tore the front end off my truck. I landed a little too hard.
Well, the average comes out a little bit better than the second finish. Is there any advantage to this track as far as you being able to pull here before? Is there anything unusual about the surface here?
No, it's just a very good track. They redid the dirt this winter, so it's all clay. It's pretty...
So it'll take the power you can give it.
Oh, yeah. You try to put all you can put on it.
Well, with crew chief Bob Branson's Brad Anderson equipped 572 cubic inch aluminum Chrysler Heavy, Ted, one thing's for sure. If they can put more power to it, it could be the most powerful here.
All right, Brett Kepner, we're ready to find out right now. Sabrina Stockett's lined up. Here she comes.
And, Ted, she was talking about that track, and this is one of the most awesome tracks in the country, but looks like she's got the power to beat it. Ted, I think we might have it. It looks like a full pull. The horn's blowing. Sabrina Stockett is the new leader.
She blew young Jeff McPherson right out of there. So now it's a full pull or nothing. Let's look at exactly how she accomplished that.
It's pretty simple. A lot of horsepower, good driving. She just had everything working perfectly tonight.
What a beautiful and unusual ride. Wheels in the air. Our next puller is what? A funny car? We'll tell you more about that, but Brett is with our new leader.
That was beautiful.
Thanks. It felt great. It just flew out.
Looks like at right about half track, it started moving a little bit to the left, but you kept it in bounds, obviously.
Yeah, it went pretty straight, actually, for here, so I was happy. It's great.
Our new leader is the lady, but look who's going to try and catch her. Is this really a funny car?
Yes, it definitely is. And Richard Rhinesmith's car, or truck, whatever you want to call it, shines good on good horsepower tracks, but the track was a little too good, and he almost goes out of bounds. Let's check out here on the Lucas Oil replay. He had a good run going, but the track was saying, no, 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 Richards, you're going over to the left. He got out of it, got back in. That's what you're seeing, it bouncing up and down.
And that's a no-no. When they give you the red flag, you're supposed to shut it down, but he gave it one final effort. Now, a good look inside of one of these pulling trucks with the body up. Here comes Jeff Eichelman.
Ted, it's so much easier to work on those vehicles when you can just push a button and the body flies up. That's why so many guys over the years, and I guess gals too, have gone to the flip-up / funny car style body. They're just so much more simpler to work on things.
He's from right down the road in York, Pennsylvania, an old drag racing stomping grounds where the Super Stock Showdown started. Heidi's Toy on a good pass, but remember, he has to go all the way. He's nowhere near it. 264 feet. So the lady still stands atop the mountain. Our next entry is a very unusual looking entry, and if you think the pulling truck's unusual, wait till you see, well, here's Brett.
Well, Ted, while Don Landis's two-wheel drive machine is neat, the reigning Maryland State two-wheel drive pulling champion has something even neater that you can't see back here in the pits. Let's face it, if you want to go racing in style, you got to have yourself a nice big sleeper or camper or something to live in, right? Well, this is one of the most ingenious things we've seen yet. Behind the family's huge white GMC tractor, you'll see basically an equipment flatbed trailer. But on top of that flatbed up at the front, and a Pico Lestrada tag-along family camper. Now, as you can see, it still has the hitch and the propane tanks and everything else up front, but it's permanently mounted to the front of the flatbed. You can see where the wheels used to be. And this thing, which was actually a pretty big trailer in its day, is now the living quarters, if you will, for the whole pulling family on the road. I would say that this probably cost a little bit less than those $500,000 tow rigs that everybody else uses nowadays.
Ah, American ingenuity at work. We love it. And Don Landis has a very unusual 23 bucket T. Look at the front end of that thing. Looks more like a Jeep.
Ted, earlier today in Bel Air, Maryland, he was the winner. He beat Sabrina Stockett. Can he do it here tonight?
Not that way. Runs out of traction, 266.9 feet. Nowhere near the full pull. But speaking of full pulls, here's a guy that could do it.
Very, very good chance at that. Darrell Varner, the #1 truck on the Jasper Pulling Series. You can see Sabrina Stockett looking ever so closely at what's going on at the track. Who will win this? It's going to be determined right now. Sabrina smiling. She's celebrating. She's won it.
I'll tell you what, folks. The kiss that had never happened before. I'll tell you, get in here. We need the crew chief in here, because anytime you can build horsepower to beat Gary Varner on a track like this, you've accomplished something.
Oh, that motor makes a lot of power. It's pretty easy. It's a tough motor. It's pretty easy to tune.
Of course, let's not forget the driver. I mean, this is a big one.
Yeah, it felt good. It just went down, especially against all these guys. Whew, it's a lot of competition.
It was a lot of competition. As a matter of fact, Jeff McPherson finishing #2 for the second week in a row. Now, enough of the trucks. When we come back, the heavyweight super stocks. You'll like them. The Buck Under the Lights from the Jasper Balloon at night. A special award. Here's Brett.
Well, Ted, as always, the Jasper Racing Engine's Best Engineered Award went to a winner, and I do mean one of the most intriguing of the bunch here. Running in both tractor categories tonight is Kevin Windsor's amazing Ford. This particular machine uses one of the smallest cubic inch displacement engines you'll see in competition tonight, 401 cubic inches of six-cylinder, but more importantly, as you can see, 4 turbochargers on this thing. In fact, those 5 compression gauges are actually boost gauges, one for each turbocharger and one for the all-time number that comes up at the output of the main pipe. That's how they tune this thing, individual turbo tuning before and after every run. Now keep in mind that this is a 3-stage turbo setup, so in just 300 foot, this engine is going through all kinds of internal chaos. But one thing's for sure, it produces over 1,500 horsepower at the other end.
Thank you very much, Brett Kepner, and he's ready to pull right now with the Baby Blue.
Earlier today, he pulled in the 5,500-pound super stock class, made the pull-off, but it was oh so hot, and Ted, he may have had some damage still yet from that pull-off, and it looks like he has. Sorry to see that for Kevin Windsor with the Baby Blue, 138.90.
Our next puller will be Zach Bundy. Yeah, it's the same Zach Bundy that you saw with the bell ringer, but he's got a little more weight on board now.
That's right, but it looks like his clutch isn't fully engaging. He's had problems with that clutch for many, many months, and, well, it's locking up now, but boy, he had trouble getting it out of the hose head.
He did look like he was going to have problems, but then something worked right, and he moved on to 247 feet, and that's the mark to beat. Leon Overholzer will try it.
The only AC in the class, so you AC fans, this is your one and only chance right now. Leon is the toughest orange tractor on the East Coast. Ted, he's flying. He's got a heck of a run going.
The Persuader has beat the mark. He stopped at 279 feet. Our new leader, ladies and gentlemen. That pull was worth another look.
Definitely at that, Ted, since it is now the new leader. He had a good run going, but he had to get on the brakes, and every time you get on the brakes, you can pretty much guarantee it costs you 10 feet. We'll see if that will hold out as the evening goes on.
There are plenty more pullers remaining. Here comes the big John Deere of Robert Martin.
This tractor used to be the Green Phantom of Lewis McDonald. This is Robert's first year with it, Ted.
Looks like, oh, some problems for Robert Martin. He'll roll to a stop at 199 feet. Boy, something definitely shut down on that tractor, but it's not over yet. We have more heavyweight super stocks coming up. Stay tuned, please. Back at the ATPA event at the Buck, you know, tires are a very important element in tractor pulling. With more on that, here's Tom McConnell.
One of the most important components on any pulling tractor, of course, is the thing that gets them down the track. All right, the engine, but what about these things, the tires? Now, at high horsepower tracks, we're talking really good bite, a lot of moisture like what we have here at the Buck. These tires, these double-cut tires that dominate in the south and kind of your sandy tracks may or may not work. Check out the tires on this tractor over here. That'll dig right down into the soil, lift it up, and scoot it down the track. But on these hard clay tracks like we've got up here in Pennsylvania, well, it may work, it may not. The way it looks right now, the Jasper Engines and Transmission's current pointless leader, Kenneth Hale, he may be taking a gamble by running his traditional up-in-the-air double-cut tires.
We'll find out, Tom, a little bit later on as Kenny Hale is in line. But right now, our next puller is Corey Forrester in the hot iron. We've seen him before. Boy, he's not going very straight.
Same thing happened to him earlier tonight in the 5,500-pound class. It just sucked him over to the right-hand side. Let's take a look at that again here on the Lucas Oil replay.
You can begin to see he started out straight, and then suddenly he goes almost out of bounds. What's the problem, Tom?
I'm not sure, but I know the same thing happened to him earlier tonight in the 5,500-pound class. For some reason, that tractor is hooking up, and it's going for the right-hand side of the track, and all he can do is barely fight to keep it in bounds. And, oh, man, that's a judgment call by the official, but it looks close to him even being out of bounds.
Oh, he was tippy-toeing right down that white line, almost went out. Here comes Chris Blacken.
Chris is out of Dry Ridge, Kentucky, about 12 hours from home. One of the truly nice guys in the sport, and he was the Rookie of the Year last year, Ted.
Straight and true right down the center of the course, but runs out of traction, 250.90 feet. Here's the aforementioned Kenny Hale with his upcut tires, as you pointed out, Tom. He calls it the night trouble. That means it may be trouble for our current leader.
Ted, last night, Kenneth Hale was pulling at a local event in Tanner, Alabama, 19 hours south of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Drove straight to come up here to see if he can't be the Jasper Points champion 2 years in a row. He's now the current leader of the class anyways.
He drove straight down the middle of the course is where he drove, Tom, to pick up the lead. And only one man remaining that could stop Kenneth Hale, and that's Dave Moore in a John Deere.
This is the toughest John Deere on the East Coast, no question about it. Let's see what the agitator can do.
Oh, I don't believe it. The agitator, 284.5 feet. He wins by 3 feet. Unbelievable. This coverage brought to you by Lucas Oil Products and by Jasper Engines and Transmissions and by Valco of Cincinnati. Brett Kepner is down there with a very surprised winner.
That is as close as you will ever see it, buddy.
Got that right.
To come out here on the last one, I mean, that was a good pull you were faced with.
Yep. The biggest problem I had was the head gasket problem. I was afraid I wasn't going to make it. But
because everybody was talking about the fact that this thing may not even light.
Right. I had a hard time lighting it, but, hey, it worked out.
Unbelievable. 3 inches. Good job.
Thanks a lot.
Well, our congratulations to Dave Moore and our second and third place finishers in the 7,500-pound super stock class. Let's take a look at the points.
Well, Donna Webb has pretty well got the four-wheel drive class sewed up. Looks like it's going to be a tight battle, though, for the rest of the way down. Two-wheel drive super modified, it is anybody's race at this point. Darrell Varner's got the lead, but Tricky Dick, never count him or his son Jeff out, as they're in second and third. So moving to the 55 super stock, the down and dirty of Leroy Mason has still got the lead over the walking tall Ford. And don't count out Chris Blacken. You don't see him on the list, but he's number 7 in the points. And speaking of the 7s, the 7,500 super stock Kenneth Hale secures a good lead over the Indiana rascal of Ron Eves.
That's a look at the points. Be sure and join us for our final event coming up from Georgetown, Ohio. Until then, this is Ted Jones for Tom McConnell and Brett Kepner. Thanks for joining us from the Buck in Pennsylvania. This program dedicated to the memory of Superstock tractor star Coleman Wheatley.